technologies that are in tune with the natural biologic technology, organic technology that we all have. To do that, I think, there has to be, this level of, real, uh, almost like a central distribution, right? Which is what we've been talking, you and I have been talking about a little bit, is being able to distribute funds just for the someone to, they have an idea, they want to do something, and we have to measure success differently. We have to measure what it means to be successful differently. So the example I use is there's a product that I would wanted to bring to market a year ago, and the product was made up of 4 ingredients from the Amazon rainforest. And the product had the ability to take even a diabetic wound, which is notoriously hard to heal because diabetics, oftentimes they have, this concentration of, I'll say it this way, concentration of sugar that is crystallized in their capillaries, right? So these microvessels in the extremities of their body, they end up crystallizing, and the blood isn't circulating. And so if they get a wound there, it's very hard for it to heal, and oftentimes they lose a limb. So you take this exact same product and you bring it to market, and you literally, whatever it takes financially, let's say, is a wash. It's free, right? Like for them, for the actual designers of the product to bring it out. And we bring the product out. Now they don't have the crushing cost of the overhead expense that normally businesses spend their whole, 30 to 50 years paying back debts, right? So we wipe away the debts. The entire concept of debt is gone, so to speak. And they bring this product to market. Now, the first year, as far as whatever money they make, essentially is profit, number one. And number two, we measure success not by the profits at all. The success is now measured by the baseline. And so say the baseline is the first year before we bring the product to market, 1,000 diabetics in the sample base we use had to get limbs amputated. And the next year, we launch a product year one, only 600 have to get amputations. So the measure of our success is that we save 400 limbs, right? Now that's a different metric. That's a unique and creative metric to measure our success by. Now, creative measures for success is what real abundance is going to be based on, not on money. Because if all we do is judge abundance based on money, we'll never be abundant because we'll never pursue anything except for money. And as long as the pursuit ends up being money, we can't really get quite to where we want to go. So there's somewhere in the combination of these two concepts, I feel is the
Right.
is at least
Well,
part of the answer.
let's throw merit into that because the meritocracy is also one of those things that's out there now that people are floating towards. And again, sounds good, but again, it comes down to who is basically defining what who has merit. If it's the central planning committee, of the Communist Party, or Socialist Party, or of any party, you end up with those same dictatorial type of environments. If they're the ones that say what merit is, and what if those people are great in the beginning, but the next group that comes into place is, not so great, and then it gets worse thereafter as greed creeps in, and they're able to like move the merit to where their benefit only.
Yep.
So there is a way of us to value this unique metrics of how those things, and it is, and merit can play a part in it, but it has to be based around the people that are involved, boots on the ground with that particular thing that's being measured. Those are the ones that are able to judge at that moment what merit is valued at. So it could be a part of a variety of metrics that come together. The good thing is that because of the technology we have, we can actually create these systems and make them automated in a way that makes it simple for everyone to participate. No one has to really take extreme action other than paying for things to flow. In Tui's grandfather's system, he passed away, and so did the system because it was all manual and it was no one quite understood it. He's the one that understood the magic of the velocity of money, and and was that his grandfather?
I know that was like eerie. Wow, he was crying out.
As a, you so at least it was a howling success.
Oh gosh, yeah.
Sorry, that was my dog.
It's all right.
It's okay. It was perfect. So
So, so I can give a general standard on this kind of for at least merit when it comes to to business, right? All companies start with a very noble mission statement for the most part, right? And nobody invests in a company that they don't believe in their mission, right? The mission dictates the merit. Now, the funding organization, which in this case, for example, say Create Change, which is my organization, is the first organization I had approved for project funding, and Kim and I designed it so we could set up distribution centers, around and have people set up offices and things of that nature, so that we could use them as places where people could come and apply for funding. And the goal would be that when people come in and their mission is X, whatever it is, um, whether it's to we want to provide free electricity to all the suburbs of New York City, and now and then they come up with a number of like how many people. They have to have do a needs assessment and figure out how many people actually need that, how many people are there, what would it take, what are they currently using, right? And then from the time you launch it to the next year, and you measure it along the way, I guess, you're measuring your success based on the mission. Now the mission, because you're now dictating the success of this business based strictly on the mission. Now everyone becomes mission based. So in essence, everyone's allowed to keep their individual purpose, right? Now, as long as it doesn't hurt other people, right? Now, if your mission is to wipe out white people, like that's not a mission we could support, right? But if it's a mission that is, in harmony with the greatest good for, the people, the planet, and the individual human experience, then essentially what you do is now, based on how successful you are in your mission, would also dictate how successful the funding organization is, right? So the funding organization, their job now, their success, even their payment comes from, are they successful in making the people that they funded successful, right? So they have to not only make sure that they get them the money, but they also are responsible, right? So they can't just be a typical bank. They also have to be, they also have to be able to connect to all the participants in that community that will have an influence and an effect on that project. So if it's a construction project, then the funding organization, we'll just say Create Change in this example, the Create Change has got to know who are the most ethical contractors, who's going to finish the job, who uses the best standards, the best materials, the best equipment, who is consistent in finishing the job on time, right? And so they have to have a way to measure, what's going to help that project be successful, right? And the measure might be different depending on, the organization. It might be totally different. So that funding organization, right, this sort of distribution point or kind of a development center, this development center would be responsible for the entire community. So every one of these developmental centers that is centered in these communities, right? They're essentially accessing, the greater the greater AI, so to speak, or the greater quantum system or quantum universe or whatever. This greater bank of resources, and they're making sure that the the values that are most important to that community, the culture that is important to that community, stays intact, but it is the best version or the best representation of itself. And in that way, you're still creating abundance, because people who don't have massive debts to pay back and suddenly they own their business, right? And they can focus solely on their mission, which we have to assume, that for the most part, people don't start businesses with the intent to hurt people, right? And a lot of these uh, businesses that we wouldn't necessarily support, the only reason why they exist for the most part is because they're not trying. It's not because they're hardcore believers in, having a uh, hardcore fetish porn site, right? It's because they figured out they can make money doing it, right? And money is the goal. So they'll compromise ethics because they want to make money. So if we're giving them money based on ethical business practices and we're supporting them to accomplish their mission, you create abundance the same way. And then we actually get away from um, a place where money's so important, because money's available, right? Or the substance to build from is available, just as it is on the planet, right? Because the planet is abundant. The planet is abundant in resources. The planet is abundant in air and water and food. There's plenty. There's plenty of it. It is abundant. Now, the illusion is that we're not abundant. And the way the illusion is held in place is because so much of the focus is on money. So I think the transition is somewhere in there, in that combination of things. And to your point of being able to measure these kind of, just basic things, so we know what people are, what they need and what they want, and give people a vote even if they don't vote, right? Because that's another thing, is making it so hard to have a say is part of it, right? But if you could just gather the data in a more efficient way, then you'd have a better feel for what people are doing and what they might need.
Well, I think valuing the individual can also come about by valuing what's unique in the individual and what they do.
Exactly. Yeah.
The for example, someone who is an attorney in a place where everyone's an attorney, it's not unique, so has less value.
Very true.
One